webinar. This is Shimo with Destination Marketing Association International, and I would like to welcome you to our webinar on media coverage for your event. And before we get started and make some introductions, let me just mention that we are really grateful that we have ePro Meeting Apps as our sponsor of today's webinar. And Tommy Hart with ePro will be, we'll introduce him later on in our webinar so that he can say a few words. And so thank you very, very much, Tommy, for joining us. In today's webinar, you'll be able to have an opportunity by submitting our panelists some questions. And given the time allotment, we'll try to get to your questions at the end of our session. So please make sure you use your question and answer box, and we can respond to you accordingly. Now, we have two panelists here. You see their pictures that we're really happy to have with us to share with you about the importance of media coverage and really how they have been successful and achieved. Have Dan Ellison. Hi, Dan.
Good morning, or good afternoon, depending on where you are.
Depending upon where you are, right. And we do have several people from across the state, so we're really happy that all of you could be joining us today. But Dan, Dan's the Chief Administrative Officer with the U.S. Police and Fire Championships. And Dan is currently holding the position also as director with the World Police and Fire Games. But both events are governed by the California Police Athletics Federation. And Dan, I think you joined the federation back in 2009, but that's after following 30 years with the San Diego Police Department.
Yes.
And while with the department, Dan, you've had some varied assignments. The SWAT team, emergency negotiations, and then that's kind of interesting how you transitioned into special events. But I guess all of those things are special events, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
They're
special and
well. But one of the great things that I think you've done that must have been fun for you was planning for the 2003 Super Bowl and the International Chiefs of Police Conferences here in San Diego.
Yes.
But besides being active with your job responsibilities, you are also an ice hockey enthusiast, I should say, and also a referee.
Yes.
So, Dan, I know you enjoy a lot of other great activities like camping and cycling, and you live here native in San Diego, so it's really great to have you with us, so thank you for joining us.
I think Dan gets media coverage because no one wants to mess with him. What do you think?
Well, that's something to consider. Now, we also have with you Steve Schell. And I've known Steve for a number of years, and Steve's actually a lot more friendlier than his picture. But Steve is the Vice President of Sales for the San Diego Sports Commission. And Steve has been with the commission since November of 2010, but he has also been with the San Diego Convention and Visitors Bureau for over 16 years. So, Steve, it's really great to have you with your perspective on how you also support folks like Dan in getting media coverage. Now, I also mentioned that I work for Destination Marketing Association International, and we are the trade association for over 600 Convention and Visitors Bureau, or we like to call them destination marketing organizations worldwide. And DMAI not only brings to the planners on the phone empowerMINT.com, and Terri will cover off on what is empowerMINT.com, but we also produce a couple of face-to-face events. So we'd like you to connect with our destination experts from Convention and Visitors Bureau, and we'd like to let the planners know that we do have a hosted buyer program opportunity for our Washington, D.C. Destination Showcase Conference. So those of you who may be interested in participating could apply at the URL below, and we'll mention that again at the end of the webinar. So it's a great opportunity for you to connect face-to-face with folks like Steve from the Convention and Visitors Bureaus. So with that, I'd like to turn this webinar over to Terri Roberts with our empowerMINT.com team, who will facilitate today's webinar. Thank you, Terri.
Thanks, Shimo, for the great introductions, and welcome both Steve and Dan. And I'm excited about this particular topic because I think, if you're not planning a Super Bowl or a huge, worldwide commerce event like, Consumer Electronics Show or something of that nature, you might not think that your small meeting or event can be worthy or garner that local radio or TV or media attention, or even, in fact, why it might be important to you. So today, I think Steve and Dan are going to share some really interesting insight about the benefits of gaining some media exposure, how this local coverage can help you conserve your budgeted marketing dollars. Really, when you want that attention, how to go about getting it. I think Dan has some great tips on taking care of the media and kind of working and establishing those relationships. And then certainly, last but not least, how CVB partners like Steve can help make those media contacts for you and kind of open up doors in their destination. So with that, we will get started. And Dan, I'd like to start with you. I know that there are a lot of benefits from media exposure, whether you're planning a sporting event or any meeting or event, and I wondered if you would just speak to, from your perspective and from planning perspective in general, what sort of benefits that the folks on the call today might be able to garner from some local media exposure.
Well, a lot of the things that happen in the media exposure, we use it for a couple of reasons. One, it's a public awareness thing. And there might be that person that's out there that's familiar with your type of event, or, for example, I'm a hockey enthusiast. All of a sudden I look and I see that, oh, there's a hockey seminar or event taking place. It might generate that. But we use it for a couple of reasons. One, it helps us thank our and promote our sponsors and gives that public awareness. Secondly, we use it because we're trying to garner public support and interest for our event, and so it will bring them in as well. And it also helps put the awareness of what we're doing and how we're giving back to the community and how our event will help the community.
So all those things, even for a nonprofit organization or a government organization, could also exist on the corporate side as well. Wouldn't you agree, Steve?
Oh, yes. I mean, I think as far as corporate meetings are concerned and conventions, I mean, I think they want to get their word out, especially to the local media and national media, of what they're trying to accomplish, why they come to a destination.
So true. So if we talk about increasing your revenue specifically, so creating community awareness is only part of the reward, I think, of getting that positive media attention. Good press, public service announcements, even live TV coverage can actually increase the amount of revenue that you can put back in your own pocket. And Steve, I'm wondering if you could kind of speak to these sort of 4 ways that we identified on, how it can stretch those budgeted dollars for marketing.
Right, Terri. I think the most important thing that we have to realize in this is, majority of this is free services. So when you talk about connecting with your CVB and having them help you get your, market your event to the local media, get the word out, this is 99% is a free service that's offered by most CVBs. So the first point there is conserve your marketing dollars. because obviously the money that you might have put into getting the word out locally of your event and having the CVB do that for you for free puts money back into your pocket to use at other areas of your event or your convention. So I think that's the number one thing to remember as we go forward here. And then of course, if you're looking to attract sponsors, sometimes that sponsor window though it might be a little bit tough because if you're coming in, you're usually getting that media exposure a couple days before the event. So attracting a sponsor might not happen for that year, that convention, or that event. Might do is help you attract your sponsors for the following year. So that's something to consider too. And then number 3 on here is to promote the attendance, especially if you're doing an event, if you're doing a convention that you're trying to draw local people to. I think this is the number one item on this list is promoting your attendance. If you're trying to get people into the door, if you're trying to get them seated at your general session, if you're trying to get them, to be part of your convention or your event, this is what, working with the local media, this is what's going to really, drive that point home. And then, obviously increased ticket sales, that's more on our sports event end. And, it's something that me and Dan do and we've been doing here for the last 18 years is, we have a local event that's, it's a national event coming, but they want people to, come from the local area. If we get the media out there, if we get the newspaper, free newspaper article on it, if we get the news channels doing a live interview with the event right holder or one of the athletes a couple days before the event, that we really see the increase in the ticket sales. So those are kind of the 4 important items that that I deal with itself. But Dan, I think you could probably make give us some more points on attracting sponsors by using the media.
Well, first of all, Steve, you brought up a really good point that I think it's getting to know your local CVB, because getting into the event management side from my new position, I was unaware of all they had out there to offer, and I know here in San Diego, Steve and his group have been fantastic as far as introducing us to the press. Yes, on the police side, you get to meet the people that handle the public safety side, but there are the other people that are out there to do all these public awareness pieces, and that was great. And on top of that, there's people over there that can help you draft or at least review your media releases that are going out. And again, so it does help you save some money, and it does help you use some expertise that's already out there. And the more that your event can be seen, the more that you can track that, whether it's on television spots or newspaper articles or today's social media, any of those spots where you can keep those, and then you can take and show to your potential sponsors what you're doing and how they can attach their logo to it and get the word out is tremendous. And again, for promoting attendance, our event currently is free to the public, so that helps, but there are events with the ticket sales where you're trying to generate revenue. It's a great way to do it. And then there's another piece on here that's kind of missing that really goes back to helping with the community, and that's the awareness. If you're having any type of impact to the community at large or the business community specifically, whether it's you're blocking off a street, you're holding some type of event that's going to impact access to or from a venue, that's a great way to get it out. And then again, if you're doing something at a shopping center, it's a great way to promote the shopping center and then get some sponsorship dollars out of them too.
Dan, the word that you use that really I hear time and time again in my conversation with planners was I wasn't aware, the unawareness, that they are continually surprised at the depth and the breadth of the services available to them, complementary when they tap into CVBs, that their services aren't in fact free because they have been paid for, but they've been paid for by the local community stakeholders that are interested, invested in the meetings market, and then they're free to you as a planner. So I think that's just such a great point, is, you just don't know till you ask what they can do for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, and also I like to add too there. Dan made a great point in using a CVB or a sports commission and at least writing the media piece, because they're the ones who speak to the media. They're the ones who know what the media is looking for. So you should always ask, even if you have somebody in-house that's doing your piece, you should always show it to the CVB or sports commission, so then they can put their little twist on it, and that obviously will get you more awareness.
And that's great. And so it can be a support if you have a staff person that's handling media, or it can save you money if you're going out to hire someone to try to get these kinds of connections for you. So now we'll talk a little bit about, all right, so now I've decided I see the benefit. I'd like to get some media attention for my meeting or my event. So you've bought into the fact that it's important. So now how do you get it? And Dan, I know that you and Steve and I talked about many potential hooks that might pique the media's interest and might get you that news clip or that video clip that you're looking for. So wonder if you might just cover from your perspective a few of the possibilities.
I look at some of the and I think back through some of the events that we've held and partnered with the media, and it can be something as simple as if you're doing a morning event during the time that the live news is going on, and you get the weatherman out there to do his broadcast while your event's taking place in the background. But there's also all the human interest stories, and even in police and fire services, the people that are working there are reflective of the society as a whole. And so you'll have an athlete that is a former professional athlete, a former Olympian, and things like that, that if you can bring them in and tie that into your story, those usually generate some very nice pieces in the local media. And then it goes back to that relationship that you have with the media, where you can convince them to bring you on. The morning shows are usually very easy to get into because they're looking for those human interest pieces. And when you can tie it back to the community as a whole, and especially for our event, where we can show that, yes, it is a sporting event, but this is how it ties back to the community, making the community safer, because the police officers and firefighters are working out to maintain a fitness level so that when they go back to serve their communities, they have a healthy organization working for them.
And Steve, I know you have worked with sports-related groups, and then through your work at the Convention and Visitors Bureau, many non-related sports groups. So how could someone who is just planning, for, kind of use the colloquialism, a regular old meeting, get a hook?
Well, I think that one of the important things about that hook is, and it is probably even there with your guest speaker, or your who's going to do the general session, your keynote speaker, and sometimes that person is a draw to the media, and I think a lot of people they overlook that. And just having that, that out to the media will hopefully drive some awareness to you. So I think that is one that a lot of people overlook. And then, we talk a lot about, using a venue, and especially going back now to the sports side of it. Venues, everybody always thinks about as a stadium or as an arena, but there's a lot of things that go on outside those normal venues, and that could be something that's done on your water, if you're on the water like we are with San Diego Bay. We do a lot of things that's a little bit more unique in that essence. But really, I think what you're trying to do here is, there's a lot of things that you might not even consider that go, wow, the general public would like to hear about this and like to know about this. And keep in mind too, when you're looking at and you're talking to a destination, I mean, the CVB, they want to help you get that word out about what you're doing, so that drives awareness, from the local residents of see what the CVB is doing to, to add to the taxes. Look, we're bringing in 5,000 people for this convention. That in itself is a message that the CVBs want to get out to the local media, and by partnering with the meeting planner, you can accomplish that.
That's great. So maybe the planners on the call today could take these boxes here and get a brainstorming session together in their own organization and say, okay, what do we have? What are we doing that might be topical, that might tie into something that's going on? Or like you said, tout their attendance, or, tap into a local chapter. So I think these are all such great, when I was looking at the list, going, these are really great ways to take a different angle towards your meeting.
Yeah,
Dan, go ahead. I'm sorry, Steve.
Terry, I just think that it really is the best thing to do, is what you mentioned, is sit down with your staff, brainstorm with the CVB, and by doing that, you're going to say, well, wait a minute, this is something that the local media might be interested in, and I think by just doing that exercise, you're going to uncover a lot of different hooks.
Absolutely.
And Terri, there's one point that I would like to make is, as we talk about this, and you're out there and you're trying to attract that local celebrity to come in, partnering with your CVB gives you instant credibility in your market, because they're out there, and right away, if you're working together and you've got that good relationship going, right away you have the credibility of the CVB behind you when you're out trying to approach somebody to get them involved.
Yeah, they're acting, in fact, as extenders or facilitators of relationships that they always, that they already have established.
Yes.
Dan, I know this is a particular point of yours that you cared about making. Was, all right, so now you've got the media there. How do you take good care of them so that they are heavily engaged and so that they want to, come back and serve you the next time?
This is something that I learned in the police department, because anytime that you have one of those special events, the news media really wants to be there, and all they're looking for is the information. So my recommendation is that as you plan your event and you plan your staff, that you assign one person to the media to be the media liaison. It does quite a few things. It eases up your burden of communicating, getting the word out, all the press releases and things like that, and it helps get that message out without little pieces falling through the cracks. And it can be as simple as giving them a complimentary pass to get into the event. If you have any social functions, have a special social function just for the media. I know that it's sometimes that takes a little bit of doing, and it's causes some challenges, but what you get back from that is now you have somebody that's going to come back next year. They'll remember that you took care of them, and now they want to come to your event and help out. So things like if you're going to be in a hotel, make sure that there's Wi-Fi access so that they can get their reports back to whoever they need to report to. If they need computer access, if they need copies, if they need printers. Now, I wouldn't go overboard, but I would make sure that they had the ability to get their job done, and anything that I can do to facilitate it really makes them feel special, wanted, and then they really want to come back.
Steve, would you add anything there? I think that's a pretty good list from Dan.
Yeah, and I just think that on my side of the fence, on the Bureau side, on the Sports Commission side, you should do the same thing. You should have one person. Maybe if you have a staff of 5 people, you're still going to have one person that you want to designate as that's my media person, so they could be in touch with all the media, know all the names, know the telephone numbers, know the email addresses. So just the flip side coming from from the Bureau side.
Great. And I think we've been peppering, Steve, this concluding slide sort of through all of our presentation, but I just wondered if you would speak really specifically to the type of help that a CVB is prepared to give you, and how you access that. And I know that we've kind of divided this list because we want to make sure that we're very clear that there is a certain level of service that is provided complimentary, and then as you move into perhaps more, overarching or really wanting the CVB to actually take a part of your meeting plan or your media plan, there might be a charge affiliated with that. So if you could kind of explain that.
Yeah, Terri, again, like we mentioned, the majority of this, some of the stuff is free services. There are bureaus and all sports commissions that actually go to the next level where you kind of get more engaged, and that's pay to play, where they're going to write a full-on media plan. They're going to go ahead and execute that plan. They're also going to own that plan. So there's different levels that are offered by some CVBs and sports commissions, but the majority of this is started off as free services. And as you have them listed here, it's pretty. This is easy. This is not rocket science. This is not something new. It's just really spending the time to do this. And most bureaus will have on their website a list of the local media contacts. Most of them will have the ways to arrange interviews for you. So this is kind of the standard stuff that you see from most bureaus. But I really like to drive home that point is, again, 80%, 90% of it is free services, and then there are some that you can take it to the next level.
And Dan, anything that you would like to add here as we conclude?
I really want to give Steve, the San Diego Sports Commission, the San Diego Convention and Visitors Bureau, a great deal of thanks. They were invaluable as we've gotten this started, and Steve and I go back and we've worked on similar events over the years, and he's been such a great resource, and it was learning that and to develop that and how to use it in the right way. And just a quick overview of what they did for us last year. They helped us put together our sponsorship plan. They helped put together our media plan. They wrote the news releases for us, and they helped point us in the right directions in who we needed to meet in the local media. They set up some of those on-air pieces where you go to their studio and you're interviewed. And then during the event, they were in constant contact with the media about specific events that were coming up and getting reporters out to get those human feel-good pieces, and it really was a huge help to us. And at the end of it, we had a lot of kudos from the city of San Diego for how well it was managed, and from the community as a whole, and that goes back in a great deal because of the partnership that we had with the Sports Commission and the CVB here.
Well, Dan, you bring up another really good point. So that's for the planners who are on the call, whether they move from destination to destination as they plan their meetings, or whether they stay in a community year after year, that getting a relationship and a long-term relationship built with their destination experts can really be beneficial to them. And our trade association, Destination Marketing Association International, has a great tool that we think helps planners who are researching online connect with destination experts, and that's empowerMINT.com, where you can find all destinations across the United States listed, and their contacts are available to them too. Or as a reminder, as Shimo mentioned earlier in the call, that you can meet some destination sales professionals in person at our destination showcase, either coming up in March or again in Chicago in May. So Shimo, I will come back to you and ask if we have any questions that we want to take.
We've had several questions come up, Terri, and they all sort of focus around different types of events that the planners are responsible for, whether they're nonprofit or for an association. They have members, but can those, and I think it's apply the ideas about getting attention, the hook, can those also apply to these various audiences? Is been several of the questions. And let me pose that to Dan.
I think that you just have to find the right spin on all of those. The group that I'm with now is a nonprofit. One of my responsibilities with the police department was our police athletic league, which services youth in need, and you just have to find the right hook, whether it's that child that's coming up that can do something unusual for their age, whether it's the human interest side of the peer. San Diego is home to several conventions, and it's amazing how, whether it's the ophthalmologist convention or Comic-Con, how all of those have their pieces in the media, and it's just finding the hook to help attract. And again, that's just where I would refer, go get with your local Convention and Visitors Bureau, because they have the expertise to find that, and they'll have a different, they look at it from a different angle than you're looking at it, and they can help bring out some ideas to really help bait the hook and set it for you.
Well, thank you very much for that. So I hope that helps answer several of the questions that have come up, Dan. And in conclusion, you know, we really do want to thank our sponsor again, eProDirect. They are also developers of an app that many events find very, very useful. And
hello, Shimo?
Yes.
Hi, Shimo. It's Tommy. Sorry, I got connected.
Okay, excellent, Tommy. Thank you for coming online, and we appreciate your sponsorship.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity, and I was listening the whole time via the web. Apparently I had to call in via phone, so I apologize for the delay. But I heard everything. Thank you both to the presenters and both to DMAI for the opportunity. And I really, guys, I'm surprised you didn't mention having a mobile app as part of your marketing campaign to get to the local, to the media through all the destination management. You know, we have certainly many clients that have an actual app and offer that as a way to get more involved with the local community. But we do apps for meetings and destinations. And anyway, we appreciate the opportunity and hope that everyone learned some things. I know that I did, so thank you to both the presenters.
Thank you.
And we're still learning about all these apps.
Yeah, I think, Tommy, we're going to have a one-on-one meeting, you, Dan, and me, after this call.
No worries, fellas. I can do it anytime you need.
And Shimo, before we conclude, I know that many of the planners are eager to learn about their CMP credit, so I just want them to know that they have earned a half-hour for CMP Domain A, which is strategic planning, by attending this webinar. And if they will watch their email box, in about a week from today, you will get an email that will give you a link to print your certificate, and it will also have a link to a recording of this webinar if they would like to share it with any of their staff or peers if they found it to be beneficial to them. So I know that many times there's a lot of reach out immediately after the webinar saying, hey, I don't have my certificate. It is coming. You will get it in about a week as we render the webinar recording, and we'll send it out at the same time, the link that has your certificate.
Well, thank you very, very much, Terri, and thank you to Dan and Steve. And we hope that the planners had a very educational experience here today. Thank you for joining us.
Have a great day, everyone.